I want to make sure that you guys really understand what we aim to do here at the M&A Forum. So as I introduced Simon Heidemus today with Genesis Park, just by a raise of hands, how many of you work with founder-led companies and founders, specifically founders and business owners? Just by a raise of hands. Wow. So many of you. How many of them have actually reached out to you and said, you know what, I want you to start planning my exit? Not as many people, right? And really therein lies the opportunity, because so many of them, and I'll tell you, even myself, I mean, I'm a third generation business owner. My grandfather, my dad to this, well, my grandfather till the age of 89, and my dad today, just want to continue to find new projects and continue to grow their companies. And this is what I find with even my own clients, is that they don't want to stop. They want to continue to grow. However, they're limited in terms of that particular growth with respect to access to talent, with particular access to commercial relationships, and more importantly, access to capital. And they all think that capital means going to your nearest bank and seeing how much debt I can accrue onto whatever else I have, right? So because they're limited in their thinking in terms of what kind of capital there is, makes this particular conversation with Simon Heidemus so meaningful. I mean, it really opened my eyes to the potential that I can help my own clients unleash with that type of capital without them actually giving up any sort of control. So without further ado, Simon Heidemus.
I'm all rigged up here with like 3 mics and everything else. Is that working?
Let's take a look.
I am pretty loud. I'm Lebanese, so I'm loud.
I think that should work.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, goodness. When I heard the comment that this sold out in 72 hours, you guys were probably booking it for somebody else. So thank you very much for being here. I will start off by saying I'm an open kimono. I tend to be very transparent, and this is kind of a free-for-all for me. So if you guys have questions, literally, the folks out in the audience that know me, I'm generally pretty open.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's what I found about you throughout our prep calls, right? So why don't we start from the top and tell us a little bit about, I mean, obviously it wasn't when you were in high school, yeah, one day I'm going to be someone that's playing a role in the deal-making community, as big of a role that you've played, having, and we'll get into that, having a brand that's totally around wine,
Yep.
right? And so how did you come across that? And then also tell us a little bit about Genesis Park.
Sure. I think to kind of frame a few things, I grew up in Cyprus, just on the northwest side, went to Texas, and my career in like 10 seconds or less was I started at Lehman Brothers in the summer of 2008, which was not a particularly great time to be an investment banker at Lehman Brothers. But did that for a while, had the opportunity to work at the Sterling Group here in Houston, doing a lot of hands-on private equity. Got the itch to go back to oil and gas, and then I was really blessed and fortunate to go spend a couple years working for the owner of the Astros, Mr. Crane, in a variety of functions. And so for me, I grew up the son of an immigrant. We owned a bunch of restaurants, auto repair shops, home health care. And so I grew up in this environment of watching my dad go to the bank, get money. I had my own vintage clothing store when I was in high school that I started. I sold clothes on eBay, then I got into selling out of my car, and then I started my store. So I had familiarity with, well, how do you grow? Like, what does this look like? And so kind of putting all that together, when I had the opportunity to join Genesis Park, it just felt like the right move. Genesis Park's been around for about 25 years. Under the radar, historically, kind of a sleepy family office type deal, founded by Paul Hobby of the Hobby family. And for many years, Paul and his partner Peter Shaper would see deals that didn't warrant, a control equity mandate. And often what they did is they'd refer it off to Main Street or Blue Hinge like last month and say, hey, here's this great opportunity. And after a while, they kind of felt like, hey, why don't we harvest this deal flow for ourselves? And so Paul raised his hand and said, I want to apply for an SBIC license. And who cares who you are, but the SBA said, nope, you don't have credit experience. You're a control guy. This is a completely different program. And so Paul, you don't really tell Paul no. And so what he does is he goes out and hires great people. And so he brought on Curtis Hartman, who was a co-founder at Main Street Capital for 20 years. Gina Luna, who I'm sure everybody has heard of Gina Luna, complete rock star, not just in Houston, but was chairman of the market for a long time. And so together they locked arms, launched this, and went to the SBA, and in the heart of COVID, raised our first ever SBIC fund. Okay, what the hell is an SBIC fund? Good question, Simon. It's Small Business Investment Company, which to your clients that are business owners, we look and feel like any other private debt, private equity firm, meaning that we give you capital, we have terms. Our relationship with the government is they commit, in our case, $175 million to us to go put out to work with the spirit of creating jobs, growing businesses here in the domestic United States. And so we've been at it now for 3.5 years. We're largely deployed out of our first fund of $275 million. And we just launched our second fund about 3 weeks ago, which will be another similar strategy, $300 million. So we're off to the races.
That's good. Well, why don't you also tell us and add into that what kind of businesses are great targets for Genesis Park?
Yeah, I'm not really a big slide guy, but I would say, I'm not even gonna look at this. What we really want are strong management teams. Taking a step back, these are businesses that need to exist. And I remind myself of that every day where, we'll look at a business that's a mobile IV therapy business. Sure, they've had a run up in EBITDA and they're in markets like Nevada and like Las Vegas and Scottsdale, Arizona. But then you look at the business 6-9 months later and it's kind of petered out. So for us, it's, strong margins because candidly, our debt costs more than your local bank. So I need a business that has the financial wherewithal to support the debt that we're putting on this business. We're also looking at businesses that are, they got a defensible marketplace, limited customer concentration, tariffs we could spend a whole freaking hour on. Is there, we're looking at businesses across a variety of industries, and we've got a couple here at the bottom. But you'll notice a recurring theme is a lot of them are service related. And so we're not taking a bunch of inventory. A quick story is we were days from signing a pretty meaty check to support a business. But that day it came out, aluminum, tariffs, China. 80% of this company's cost of goods sold was aluminum from China. And I asked the guy, I said point blank, hey man, this seems pretty real. How do you expect to, work with this? And he goes, oh, I'll pass the cost on. And I was like, that's kind of an easy kind of answer there, bud. Can you hedge it? Can you do this?
Yeah.
And, so there's a whole list of particular features, but to me, it's a business that has to exist.
Of course. And, you brought up the tariff aspect of things right now. Obviously,
I
that's
opened
on
a
top
can of
mind.
worms, didn't I?
Oh, like you said, we could have an entire conversation on that and just dedicate this to that, right? But just to get a market pulse on things, particularly in the deal community, I happened to be speaking with a couple of other guys in private equity that were at DealMax, And all of them, just the general consensus from all of them was it's going to be a really slow type of a deal flow this year, and maybe even down to zero. Is that consistent with where you're sitting at? And I mean, I genuinely believe that really depends on which side of the room you're sitting at and what the perspective looks like from where you're at. I mean, how are you getting creative in the types of deals that you're looking at this year, particularly with respect to the types of companies, how they're positioned today versus what you were looking at last year?
Yeah, so I'll take that in a couple different ways. 2024 was a very average year for us. Not even average, I'd say below average. Why? One, I mean, we look at roughly 600, 700 deals a year, and we'll close on a good year, call it 7 or 8 platforms. Last year we closed 3. We did a couple add-ons, but our reasoning is there was still interest rate, uncertainty, which still exists today, despite Trump wanting to get rid of Jay Powell, but whatever. The election was a big factor where people wanted to just see how it plays out. What administration do they need to prepare for? And I would say right after the election, we saw this giant rush to the market to get deals done before year-end Q1. And it was everyone high-fiving, feeling great, MAGA, whatever. People are pumped. So we were opportunistic.
Yeah.
And I had 2 deals in the hopper and felt good about those. Well, fast forward to where we are now, people are freaking out.
And it has a ripple effect.
This is real.
Yeah.
We had our pipeline meeting this morning, and we normally budget a whole hour. It was 20 minutes. So what do?
Yeah.
We still need to put 60 to 80 million, really $100 million bucks a year to work. And so for us, it's, there's certain types of deal flow that we like. Yes, everybody wants a proprietary deal. Great. Those are really hard to come by, and they take a lot of work and a lead time to get that signed up. Do you really want to go partner with somebody that just said, hey, I just won this business, last week in a broadly marketed process, and do you really want to be the winner of that? I don't know. It's kind of like buying an eBay auction where you're like, oh shit, did I really mean to buy that?
Whatever
I say that from experience because I'm the worst person to take to a live auction or a silent auction, because I'll tell my wife, like, hey, we don't have any money, but I just bought this because it was a good deal. I have a lot of regret, but whatever. So for us, what we're doing is, if you ever spend time with me in a car, it's really annoying because I'm constantly going off like 290, 45. I mean, when I worked for Crane, I drove up Hardy Toll Road every day and I saw 6 or 7 businesses, and I'm going, well, who owns that? Houston Pipe Bender is a perfect example. Drive by, see them working at 4 or 5 in the morning, and I just drove by it every single day, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get on LinkedIn like most of us do, figure out who runs this thing. Oh, I can figure out who's the money behind it, and then fire that LinkedIn message into the ether. And typically 80% of the time, you're not going to hear anything back. Some of them you do. This was just kind of an interesting coincidence that I ended up being assigned to the president's daughter as her mentor at UT. And I put the names together, and she's like, yeah, my dad's a serial entrepreneur. I went, holy crap, Houston Pipe Bender. So I convinced him to let me in, and we didn't do a deal, but I ended up kind of advising him on what he should do for himself, what the family should do with the business, and they ultimately went and sold the company. And so it's this how do you get proprietary deals? I mean, are you cold calling? Are you got to be smart about it. And so for me, my deals, we joke around in Genesis Park that my deals tend to be the hairiest, long, protracted courtship processes that typically start out with a smaller check. And that's because I'm forging these relationships with folks going to lunch. One guy I'm talking to now out in Waller loves this specific barbecue place. We have eaten there 4 freaking times, and we are nowhere closer than we were 18 months ago.
Seems to me you love that barbecue place.
It's the worst barbecue I've had, and you don't know this, but I used to be about 50 pounds heavier, and a whole host of reasons. Jackie, you probably remember, you know me a long time. And I love food. That's the worst barbecue ever. If you want my power ranking, we can talk about that later. But it's turned into this, but every time we meet and have a call, he gets more comfortable. I've gotten back on Facebook because a lot of these business owners, they want to know who you are as a person. So we follow each other. I saw a couple guys working on this guy's crew while I was having lunch, and I stopped him. I went, "Hey, let me get a picture for the boss man." And they took this hilarious photo. I took it and I sent it to him, and I went, "Your guys are out in the wild." And so it's that you just have to be thinking, how do you differentiate your capital from anyone else? Yeah. And it's my value add, and what I think I do really well is I make you feel important, not because I want to make you, because you are important. And I want your business to succeed, and I want what's best for you. And so you got to be creative.
Absolutely. And really what stands out, you're actually the second person to have spoken over here that's leveraging the power of social media, and particularly the personal branding aspect of it. Particularly on Facebook. I would have never imagined someone in private equity saying, "You know what, I use Facebook as a way to connect with business owners."
Yeah.
And so that aspect of it, really adding that additional aspect of personal touch and really standing out.
Because think about it, a lot of these business owners, they've built this with their blood, sweat, and tears. And every dollar they've had, they've reinvested it. And a lot of these guys don't speak private equity business talk. They've built this business, they've grown it, they know their risk tolerance, they're probably ripping cash out. A lot of these guys and girls have not been to college, and they're proud of what they've built. And so it's a way of humanizing. And I talk about this in our social media at Genesis Park all the time. It's about creating personality in that we're humans, and we're not just this money that comes in and slash and burn. We genuinely care about what we're trying to do for your business. And if they can get a sliver into seeing pictures of me with long hair from back in high school, I don't care. Good. My true test is when someone calls my phone, do I answer? Do I go look at it and go, "Oh crap, not again"? Or is it when Brett calls me and I go, "Oh sweet, can't wait to talk to him about something"? I choose to operate in that part of the world as opposed to this is business, I just got to go put money to work, I don't care who it is. Because ultimately, you do a deal with someone and they're doing it with you. We just closed a deal a week ago, and the guy was like, "I did this deal because of you." And I could have chose those guys over in Nashville, but you told me to my face that this is how it's going to work. And we talked every single day for 3 months. And then last week was the first week that we didn't talk because I wanted to give all of us kind of a break. And then he texted me and he's like, "I haven't heard from you in 4 days. Are you okay? Am I doing everything okay?" And I was like, "Look, man, we needed a break from each other. It got a little heated at the end. We're good." So, yeah.
Well, that's actually, you know what, that's a great segue. Adding that human connection and really ensuring that you are cognizant of the blood, sweat, and tears that founder and that business owner has poured into that particular business before you're coming in from the outs and adding that sort of an outside capital and outside perspective. And really, what's on top of mind, I'm sure, for tons of people here is, and we'll go into the rest of this conversation now, let's take a look at a larger company a publicly held company, and then work our way into lower middle market.
Sure.
So let's take a look at Southwest Airlines. Everyone obviously right now is frustrated with the fact that bags no longer fly for free, right? Everyone is frustrated with the fact that, hey, you guys have been known to allow for us to just select our own seats as we enter in. That's no longer available either. Well, what's the backstory to that? It's not just the CEO. There's apparently an outside investor that's come in and taken 14% of that particular company. And now they have the controlling interest of the trajectory of that particular company, right, of Southwest. And that's impacting them internally, and that's impacting them externally as well, right?
Yeah.
With respect to their reputation, with respect to their customers now wanting to leave. Well, when people, and particularly business owners, look at that from the lower middle market perspective, and they start thinking about the outside capital coming in and saying, look, why should I allow for you to even have a minimal stake in my company? What am I giving up? I mean, look, this looks really appealing, but what am I giving up in exchange?
Yeah.
And so how do you get me to see the upside of this rather than focusing on the downside?
I mean, there's so much in that, what you just talked about, to kind of unpack. On the Southwest side, I was the most loyal, bang your chest Southwest guy. Had the Chase rewards, reserve, premier, whatever. And to your point, I mean, talk about a culture change. And I mean, I switched credit cards years ago, and I started flying out of Bush now, even though I hate that airport. But it's because I can now, I mean, it's no longer the cattle. I kind of like the cattle call in the aspect of being with people. But you're right, letting someone, letting the wolf into the sheep's house.
Or at least that's how it's perceived.
Yeah. And that's the last thing we want to do at Genesis Park. I think structurally, when we talk to folks, we say we cannot take a majority control position, first of all. That's in our mandate. Nor are we set up to do that. While we do have a legacy of, being in the C-suite, and that's a competitive advantage for us, is we've actually been in the position and have run businesses, but we don't want to do that. That's why we partnered with you. Like, we want to give you the capital to run. So structurally, we're not able to do that. Two, I would say we're also, in our first fund, we've done 19 deals. We're a team of 8 investment professionals. That's partner down to associate. So we're not set up to do it. We're constantly arguing. We just had discussing. We had our offsite a few weeks ago, and we're like, how do we scale? We just raised another fund. We got to do another 20, 25 deals. And we're talking about board representation. We really don't want it at all. Fiduciary reasons, time commitment. I mean, some of our best investments are where we put dollars to work, and then I just see you every 3 months, or you call me when you need me. The flip side of that is I tend to get really involved in my companies. And even though we do not have an equity position in one deal and we're solely debt, I just can't help myself. And the business is here in Houston. And so he knows I don't have an equity interest, but I also just love the management team. And so, I just go out and help with working capital. I've helped place a CFO, a COO. Those roles make my life a lot easier. So it's also self-serving to an extent. But for us, like when you go to a business owner, I mean, this last deal we just closed, the performance of the business from September to a month ago, EBITDA's fallen off 20%. Not great. It's my deal that I sourced. I brought it in. I've been the advocate. Do I look like an idiot? A little bit. But and we hate getting in the business of retrading, but you just have to have an honest conversation with the owner and say, what we valued you at ownership-wise was X. That implied a value of Y. Let's take a look now. And laying it out and being overly communicative with them, we ultimately fought and increased our ownership percentage by 1.5%. From like 12 to 13.5. And those owners were going, we originally wanted 15. They said, what if you give it to you, but then if we hit this hurdle and this, and then we all, we cut it out or take it out at close. I was like, that's complicated math. I'm from Cypress, Texas. I'm a Longhorn. We don't do math. We're not smart like those folks over in College Station. I work with a couple.
Oh man, fighting words.
Can't wait to play you in baseball this weekend and completely destroy you. But to get that ownership increase, this guy was sitting on the phone call, visibly sick, going, "This is all I've been working for my entire life, and I'm giving this to you. So how do you get him over the hump?" Yeah. It's, hey, think about where we are now and where we're going to be in 3, 5, 10 years. A big part of this thesis is growing through acquisitions. They can't do that on their own. They've tapped out their bank. Their bank, the one who brought us in, has said, I love these guys, Simon, but I don't have any more money to loan to them. I also do their real estate. I also do their personal wealth. As an exposure, this is an issue. So what I remind them of is, hey, your performance has gone down. We're willing to get into the boat with you and fight for this thing to get back. We're going to help. They need a CFO. We already have 2 candidates lined up to fly in next week to come in and interview and move to Tucson, Arizona. We're looking at 3 large acquisitions right now that would double the business immediately. Wow. We've given them a committed loan that says, hey, we funded you today, but there is a whole bunch of money sitting here waiting. We're not charging you for it, but it's there for you. Let's all get alignment. If the deal works, we're ready to pull the ripcord, be fast, and help grow you from 6-7 million of EBITDA to your goal of 30 in 5 years. And so selling them on that, on kind of the forest through the trees talk, and I think we talked about this. I joke that I spend a third of my day being a therapist and talking people off the ledge, business owners that are like, Simon, what are we doing? And just reminding them of why we like each other, absolutely, what we're trying to build, and a level of just, hey, you got to trust us. And so those earlier deals, we had to do a lot of that selling, but thankfully we now have a portfolio company stable that I'm going, look, talk to this person. And we're letting our portcos, we do what we say what you do kind of thing. And they're our best, advocates of our culture and what we're doing.
That's phenomenal. And, what comes to mind is there are financial engineers and then there are business builders. And you strike me as the latter. So, from that particular perspective, if we move in from the business owner's side to the independent sponsor side, because it's also part of the conversation today, and we have several in the audience. So what? They're probably asking why should they give you a pie, a share of their pie, right?
Yeah.
And why should they give you a seat at the table?
Good question. That's part of my coaching and therapy sessions. Yeah. We've got some independent sponsors in the crowd, right? We got Brett. We have anyone else? Anyone else chasing deals? I know we've had a few in the other that were here last month. I'm going to call on Brett because we have this conversation, I don't want to say frequently, but we both come from traditional, finance backgrounds. I'm giving him a big shout out here because They just exited their first investment that they held, what, 15, 16 months?
16 months.
Wow.
And when Brett and I started talking about 2.5, 3 years ago, him and his partner AC, I mean, he knew who I was. So the personality, I mean, that's maybe a judgment of his character talking to me first. But I mean, we sat down and we said, hey, here's how we operate. We're transparent. We're fast. I keep a sticky note on my wall. I have a wall of 15 sticky notes, and it's independent sponsors, SBICs, people that I want to do deals with, that I just remind myself, yeah, we got our CRMs, and I'm told to reach out to this person. But truth be told, you know, here in Houston, there's 2 independent sponsor groups that I'm wanting to do deals with. It's Brett and his partner, and the other one's Briarwood here in town. And we've looked at many deals with both groups. And so for us, it's, yeah, our capital is going to be more expensive. Like, we can all acknowledge that. You can go to your local bank, go to Amegy, Cadence, Wood Forest, whatever. They're offering SOFR plus 450, doesn't matter. Yeah, you're probably saving 200 basis points, 300 basis points relative to what we're offering, but you're also getting flexible terms. We're giving you so much room on your covenants that if it's not a matter of if, it's when shit hits the fan. You're talking to me. You're not talking to a credit committee that's going to throw your ass and work out. We've done, of all these deals, we maybe have, I can count on one hand, deals that have never had a covenant problem, because things happen. And we always encourage people, independent sponsors in particular, we go, one, like, a question you should be asking is has the capital provider done an independent sponsor deal before? It's pretty important. 2, talk to the portfolio companies and ask, what happens when things go wrong? You want a capital provider that's going to be there when things are not only sunny, but on rainy days. And, you know, back to the terms, we're offering, in exchange for that higher rate, we're not charging as much amortization. Typically 5% is 0 versus 10, 15, 20 that Amegy would charge you. And so what that does is net, it's less cash out the door, and you can take those dollars, and we want people like Brett to go and hire kick-ass management, to go invest in their businesses. And that's our pitch, is why we're different. You're working with a small group that will get into the foxhole with you, will work with you, give you flexible debt to EBITDA covenants. Because the last thing I want to do is tell the SBA that I got companies in default, because that just creates more of a pain in the ass for me. So yeah, that's the sale is, once again, relationship driven. Yeah. We're local. We can open up doors that you may not have access to.
Let's spend the last few minutes, and we'll open it up for Q&A after that. Let's spend the last few minutes on the types of doors you open, right? With respect to talent, with respect to new commercial relationships, perhaps helping them look at the exit, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they're not looking at a traditional exit. Perhaps they're wanting their management team to take over.
Correct.
Or there's a trend right now, I was just, I don't know the specific numbers around it. However, there's a trend right now where younger millennials and Gen Zers are going back to their parents' businesses and working for their parents' businesses. And perhaps there's a succession planning that might be on the horizon, but perhaps financially they're just not there yet. So how are you coming in and helping them with that?
Well, your first part answered the question. we make, you know, whether it's on the talent side. Yeah. I mean, going back to this example, I mean, the company is here in town. It's called Allied Outdoor Solutions. They've probably spammed your computers. Now that I'm saying it, it's going to be all over your Instagram. These guys are tech-heavy, market-driven guys who build patios, pergolas, fire escapes, fireplaces, pools. Houston, Austin, Dallas. And the founder built this because he learned from his dad, who has a siding and windows business. And he goes, Simon, I hired my best friends from college, and we've gone from 0 to 50 plus million in revenue. And candidly, we really don't know what we're doing. When we got into the diligence process, it was clear their financials, QuickBooks would have been a blessing. What they had was, he was like, Simon, I rip out a couple $1 million a year because that's just how I operate. We put in quality of earnings, cleaned up the accounting. His CFO, I mean, he'll tell you, I'm not a CFO, I hate numbers. That's not what you want to hear. But, you know, over time, we've been able to install a wonderful individual who was down in Ecuador for vacation and called me this morning because she's like, I just want to get you what you need. I went, don't talk to me till next week. To the point of being flexible, she goes, I know I owe you this. I went, I don't need this for like 2 weeks. We're fine. Imagine if it was Amity, you try and tell them you're going to delay a covenant compliance request, whatever. I don't. By the way, they are investors in our fund, and we love our commercial bank relationships. There's just certain, no, and I'm being serious.
Anyone from Amity here?
There's just certain things that outstrip their capacity that we can do. We don't do lines of credit. We don't do treasury work. So they are our partners. So back, we introduced a CFO. Thinking about the exit, maybe there is no plan.
No.
My strategy has always been, think about the exit, like what you think it is, and then work back in these small iterative chunks. Because when you're staring at it going, well, I want to sell in 5 years for X, that's pretty daunting. How do you do it? So it's helping folks game plan and say, you know, maybe you want to sell this to your kid. Great, we can help with that generational transfer. We have a lot of business owners, and I think it's on this slide here. Uses of capital. I also call them drama transactions. Say there's a couple that's going through a divorce and husband wants to buy out his wife, vice versa. They call us and say, hey, I don't want to give up control of this thing, but my partner wants to take some, beach money and get out of here. We can help facilitate that. Do you think there's not a lot of capital providers who will fund that particular use of capital? The deal we just closed in the recovery space, the founders were like, we need to rip $7 million off the table because we've invested every dollar we've had for the last 10 years. And I'd like to be able to tell my wife, hey, she can stop buying her clothes at Target and Zara like mine does, and she can buy something nicer. I don't know. But for us, it's, relationship driven. We were going to do a management buyout deal last year with a business up in Dallas and loved these guys. Think multifamily, flooring, countertops, apartment refreshes. We got to know them, they didn't speak a lot of finance talk, so we built them a simple cash flow model where they'd say, I'm going to do this revenue, tell me what my business looks like. We put it together, here's your cash flow, your interest, here's what you take down, here's what you can use to grow into Houston, like your plan. By the way, as part of that Houston expansion, we can introduce you to, Dinnerstein, to Morgan Group, to Hanover, the largest apartment multifamily companies in Houston. And we can get you plugged in. And what happened? They chose to work with a commercial bank that charged them 2% less. They hired a president that is now going, hey guys, I have all these great ideas, but I have no money to do anything with because we're servicing debt. And then they call 3 months after the deal and go, hey, can you still make those introductions?
Oh, no.
I said, if we recap your business and we get in there, sure. So and then a company was looking at a pipeline deal. I used to work for the CFO of Kinder Morgan. That's a phone call away. That's just, our team is so well connected. Calling up Paul, calling someone in Austin to help, hey, can we get a look at this? We invested in a business that makes breakfast, lunch, and dinner for private schools and charter schools that get their money through the National School Lunch Program. We're trying to get into new ISDs. Well, we have the capacity. That was a selling point of the independent sponsor is we can get you in tomorrow. And so we're not traditional private equity that's going to come and sit next to you and have a weekly cadence call with you. If you want that, we'll do it for a while to get you up to speed. I always joke that we take companies from a toddler to a teenager, and then they go off and get much cheaper institutional capital. Fantastic. Let the butterfly go away. But for us, like, we can be whatever really we need to be for that particular capital need.
Far more dynamic.
Yeah.
Far more dynamic.
Yeah.
Well, let's close this off with, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing outside of Genesis Park?
Oh, man. Well, back to the social media. I've probably spammed at least half of you in this room to like or follow my Instagram pages. So I've got two sons, Thomas and Robert. And Thomas turns 12, holy crap, next week. And Robert, our youngest, just turned 10. And life is funny and where your paths end up. My wife and I, we got married in 2010. She was a film major at Texas. So which means in the summer of 2008, she didn't have a job. She was helping someone sell insurance, hated it. So, but she had an opportunity to go work at the parish school here in Houston in marketing and development for, this is a school that empowers children with learning and language differences. Dyslexia, dysgraphia, autism, a whole host. It's been around, since 1983, and I would volunteer at the school festival and fair and got to know the school. And my wife, while she was there, made a developmental calendar for new parents. So we had our first kid, and it's check. He's nuts like his dad. Great. Like, we actually had his pediatrician go, "This is your first?" And we're like, "Yeah." They're like, "Well, most kids aren't as on crack like this one." I was like, "Thank you," because he's nuts. Our second son was born, Robert, and at 15 months, we noticed milestones he had previously reached were regressing. So my wife's alarm bells are going off. She's no longer at the school. And I'm a dad going, "Well, he's a boy. He's just delayed, head in the sand. Like, I don't want to hear it." The oil and gas company I was at was about to file for bankruptcy. I was having some heart issues. I was like, I can't have another thing. Thankfully, I listened to my wife, and she was right. And I tell her that all the time. We pulled our son out of day school and took him to language development classes at the parish school, because that's what she knew. She went and said, "Hey, what do I do?" So we surrounded him with early intervention, tons of language, occupational therapy, physical therapy, all the speech therapy, you name it. And so it's really expensive too. But I always said, like, whatever it takes, let's get this and help. Fast forward, my son Robert, we affectionately call him Robert. That's his nickname. Like, "Oh, Robert." We're not French, but he was subsequently diagnosed on the autism spectrum before his 3rd birthday, and my wife and I just full court press, like, big advocates. My wife has since gone back to work at parish and admissions to help other parents, figure out the right place for their kids. Maybe it's not parish, maybe it's, Westview, maybe it's Joy, maybe it's Briarwood. And that's been super fulfilling for her. Well, going through COVID when he was diagnosed, I was working for Jim Crane. Full disclosure, I was furloughed from half of my work for Crane. The CEO of the freight business that I brought in 6 months beforehand called me and said, "Hey, don't come to work on Monday." I said, "Did he call me on Robert's birthday, March 27th in 2020, and goes, 'You're too expensive. I'm paying you X.' Did you ask Jim? No. Did you ask his son? No, I don't need you. You're good, but you're expensive.
Oh man.
So I'm sitting there going, okay, how do I pay for tuition? How do I just live? And part of my role was the CFO at Aperture Cellars in Sonoma County. And we had the client in COVID that said, we were making wine for him. We're like, hey, we're ready to bottle it. And he goes, dude, I don't have money. I can't take delivery of the wine. Sorry, you're gonna have to just dump it down the drain. So I'm sitting with my wife on the back patio and like lamenting, like, how the hell do we pay for life? How do we do this? And I was like, we have a client that cannot take their juice. And my wife, just in a matter of like 15 minutes, was like, we call it Robert. R-O-W-B-E-A-R. Bear, boat. We had this photo of him holding up his lovey. And it just, in 3 weeks, we bought the juice, bottled it, labeled it, and delivered it to Houston. And we're sitting there going, oh crap, we're gonna be sitting on this for a while. We made a capital commitment. Thankfully, we sold out in 24 hours. People were drinking a lot during COVID. And we have since, a big part of this was we need to give back and help other families that struggle with, cannot afford tuition. And so we donated that first year a 5-figure check to the parish school, targeting children, specifically autism, to get them the tuition assistance they need. We thought this was a one-time deal. We have since done it for 5 years. We've grown. Candidly, no one works for the TABC here, right? Okay, good. I've been bootlegging this for 5 years. And late last year, we decided, hey, we really need to elevate. And so I've gone through the federal licensing, got that last week, state licensing, self-distributing. We've really have now built a business. And so I'm so used to in my role at Genesis Park telling people how to do it. Now I get to go start your own bank account, Simon, at B of A. Go and do this, Simon. And it's been a wonderful education. We're launching our wine's always been Cabernet Sauvignon. We are now launching our first ever Sauvignon Blanc, our first ever white wine. We're meeting with restaurants to get certain placements. And so now Robert, as everyone calls him, I mean, he's like a little legend. And when people come over to the house to get their wine, he goes, yeah, this is my wine. I'm Robert. And it's great because he works on, joint attention, eye contact. And we've been so blessed with this school that he's actually leaving parish after this year, 3rd grade, and mainstreaming to Holy Spirit Episcopal in the fall. It's going to be a huge adjustment. But we're going to continue to scaffold and put all the things we need to. But the mission's the same. It's raising awareness about the importance of early intervention. And so we're expanding to a handful of other charities and organizations, continuing to donate 5 figures plus. And so that's what really keeps me busy. Probably should focus more on my day job, but this is something I'm just much more passionate about. And so, yeah, we're launching it. Our Instagram is row_bear_wine.
Excellent. That's exactly what I was going to tell you. Is like, okay, well, so how do people find this brand and how do people connect with you?
Yeah, so follow us on Instagram. Follow us, really importantly, on LinkedIn, because we all operate in LinkedIn world.
Yeah.
And then if you're interested, send an email. I have my work card. I actually have a winery card. There's another thing. Got to get business cards.
He came prepared today.
And if you email, I'll put you on the distribution. The Sauvignon Blanc comes out in 2 weeks. We're launching a wine that's going to be at HEB at a much more Cabernet at affordable price point because they've bought into the whole mission. And then my flagship wine will continue to be list only later this fall.
Fantastic. Simon, I'll tell you, 60 minutes is just not, it just was not enough. I mean,
my wife
would
only beg to differ.
Scratch the surface. We need to have more of like an extended 3-hour Joe Rogan type of a conversation, right?
Oh, we'll need wine for that.
There you go. Maybe we actually do that over wine, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to open up the remaining time with Q&A. So, Jill, we'll start with you.
Thank you for a most interesting presentation.
Thank you.
I have someone to introduce to you that does software development for children on the
Oh, really?
that could be rather interesting. I will make that
Sure.
intro. Next, SBIC. So does the government, do you have a fund from the government? Do they give you money and you have to meet certain parameters, or how does all that work?
It's
I know a business that wants something like
yeah.
that.
So to the business, you introduce them to us, and of our 300 million, 175 is from the government. They give it to us and say use it equity, debt. We don't care. We're solving for 70-30 debt equity at the fund, so we are credit centric. Why? Because when I borrow from the government, I enter into a 10-year, note agreement with them at a fixed rate that gets set twice per year. So right now the current rate is 5+%. Just got set back in March. So I owe the government, we have pretty healthy checks we need to write to them. But the spirit, and we have to meet parameters, majority of employees, assets, revenues have to be United States. I mean, Brett, you showed us a deal early when y'all started out where it was the percentage of employees was overseas, so it didn't work out. We hate to pass on that, but it is what it is.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Who else? Jason.
So through the companies that you've invested in thus far, what's the most common thing that you keep seeing as an issue or a problem that you're having to solve?
Yeah, I would say we talked about this at our offsite. We went around and did like a real debrief of lessons learned on all 19. And it's kind of the themes, they're recurring. It's people. That's number one for us. Do you have good people? We overestimated, I'd say, some of the leadership in the teams we invested in, because you give them a bunch of money. I keep calling it beach or boat money. What are they getting? And knowing how aligned they are. Is there the earnout? Is there a seller note? Direct investment? So some of the folks have backed off. Post-close, so we've had a supplement. When we underwrite deals, trailing EBITDA, like through close, we expect it to go down because you're putting in people, processes. You have to spend money. I mean, like at Robert, I've spent a silly amount on a website. I've got an outsourced marketing person who handles all my social media, the licensing costs, all these things that I'd say, hey, you have to spend it in order to, because I'm thinking about scaling and making this very easy to run. When I was at the winery at Aperture, we started with the winemaker, director of sales, and myself. When I left, we had 30 employees distributing to 26 states, but we had laid the groundwork. And the joke is we're not building a piece of shit winery. We make wine in a Ferrari. The facility that we built, state-of-the-art, optical sorters, literally the fruit comes in and there's little air guns popping out grapes that don't meet the quality of the wine that we want. And you're only as good as your last bottle. So for us, it's investing, but it's people, it's not believing. I mean, like, for example, Iwi, that's one here in Houston. We were banking on a product to be commercialized that was always manana. But generally across the portfolio, their services, you have some inventory issues at Lesueur. They're a metal fabricator. But for us, like Opifex, we exited last year. We backed 4 Aggies in their late 20s full of piss vinegar in Copenhagen. And these guys built one of the largest independently held equipment leasing businesses that we sold and made. It was our largest equity and our largest debt investment. So that one felt really nice. But it's people. I have my brother's an Aggie. Like, I get it.
Well, if you don't mind sticking around
Happy to.
a few minutes afterwards, if anyone else has any questions, more than welcome to come bug Simon at the front. Please do leave your name tags. And before I wrap up, look, I'd be remiss if I don't recognize all of our leadership team. I play a very small role in all of this. I mean, this thing goes off without a hitch, primarily because of people like Gretchen Lawler, our president, Jason Jimenez, our membership. Please stand up. Austin Sinet, our past president. Who am I missing? McKinsey, of course. She keeps us on track with all of our operations. And where's Melissa Taylor? Melissa? She's cleaning up. Okay. Well,
She's
Melissa, I just
housekeeping.
wanted to give you the heads up. And Fred, where are you? Oh yeah, there you go. Okay, they're our secretary. And where's our treasurer? There you go. All right. And Jason Lee, everyone met. He's already out. But no, thank you to everyone, all of you. You guys, again, this thing goes off without a hitch for them. And so please give Simon an applause and give all of them a hand.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, hope to see everyone next month at SBDC.
Cool. I'm gonna